We're going to check in this morning with someone whom we met in the very first days of the war. Taras Polataiko is with us, a Ukrainian-Canadian back now living in Ukraine, and he is in Chernivtsi, Ukraine. Taras, welcome back. I am very happy to see you. It's been several weeks since we first spoke. Welcome back, as I say. How are you doing?
Well, yeah, I'm okay, I guess, given the circumstances. Thank you.
Yes, safe, food, necessities. You have what you need at this moment?
In our city, we do have food, electricity, which is good, much better than, unfortunately, in Kiev, Kharkiv, and especially in Mariupol, which is completely surrounded, and people don't have, unfortunately, none of those things, like no electricity, no food, no running water. They're melting snow, and it's awful there. And there's no help can get to them unless there is no-fly zone, at least over that area, to create a humanitarian corridor.
Okay, pause on that thought, because I definitely want to come back to it with you. When we checked in with you originally, you had gone back to live in Ukraine to care for your elderly parents, and they were okay at that early point of the war. Are they still okay, Taras?
Yeah, thanks God, they're okay. Like we're supplying them with food, water. They're fine. They have basement.
Okay. So we're speaking to you in the same location we talked last time, so that is still the same where you are. Now, what would you say has been the biggest change for you and your life and your security in the past 2 to 3 weeks since we first spoke?
Well, I guess we're kind of adapting to the situation. It's kind of, unfortunately, becoming a new normal. I guess we learned how to sleep with the sirens, because we're getting almost like no sleep, because we're getting sirens every night and sometimes during the day. So we just kind of like had to learn, and the getting supplies like that. We're fundraising and getting necessary things for civilian defenders of Kiev. People who volunteered. We're getting protective gear, medicines for them, and before it was possible to get them in Poland and get it delivered here. Now everything is sold out in Poland, so we're getting, yesterday we got something from London and from Alaska, so.
Really? I was going to ask because I remember you're telling me you were using your credit card to buy things in Poland. They were coming across the border and people were picking them up. So you're now having to go further and further away to get that equipment to get to the front lines. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because everybody, there's more and more people like us, like volunteers, who are trying to help. So everybody wants those things, like, combat tourniquets, like blood stoppers, like the Celox powder. There's like military grade meds.
And that was how you were mobilizing to help, to contribute. You said something in our first conversation that I've still not forgotten. It was something to the effect of, you can't feel, don't feel, do. I'm wondering if that's still what's driving you on, not pausing for feeling, or if you're allowing yourself to feel a little bit more about what's going on around you.
Well, it kind of stabilized, if that could be the word, or kind of, I guess, or maybe we're just getting used to it for a couple of days. It was calmer than before, like less of a shock, less of sort of horror, like, I don't know, maybe we're just like adapting, but we're still in constant kind of like doing mode. But yeah, and it just kind of it keeps getting worse, because yesterday, the day before yesterday, we're getting this news that Lukashenko might be invading us from the north, like Belarusian army, which is like 40 to 50,000 troops. And that's pretty scary, because, well, we're also hearing that Putin is getting like Syrian troops. Basically, it seems like it's kind of like a calmer time now, because it seems like the Russians are regrouping. So, but we fear, that he's collecting, also people from like some troops or whatever, mercenaries from like Central Africa. And, that's kind of scary, because we're a fairly small country as compared to Russia, and the Russian army is like 10 times as big. And so, now it's like we'll have to deal with like 4 countries, like Russia, Belarus, Syria, and it's kind of really, really surreal, strange that we keep hearing Western politicians saying that like they don't want to help because like they're afraid of a third world war starting. Well, we might have to fight against 4 countries. What is that? Like, I mean, that is like, it's not just 2 countries,
Yes,
it's very.
that's what I wanted to ask, because you were, Taras, the very first person on our program to call for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And of course, we've heard it so often from so many within the country, notably from the president. And I was wondering what you were feeling and whether you understand the argument and the rationale from the U.S., from NATO, for example, about the fact that they will not do that.
Honestly, I don't. And because what's going through my mind all the time, and it's some kind of like crisis of humanity, because basically we're being sacrificed. Like 40 million Ukrainians are being used by NATO as like human shield. Unfortunately, that's a reality. And I don't know how many of us will have to be like killed for something to change. And again, there's this like enabling narrative of fear of third world war. It just doesn't make sense, because what's happening is like right now is like a crisis of humanity. Like it's been like sort of declared like high words about the highest, by Western civilization, about the human life as like highest value. Unfortunately, I think now we'll have to come to terms that like the true highest value is comfort, at somebody else's expense, and unfortunately that somebody is us. We're suffering here.
This is such an important perspective to hear. On Thursday of this week, the NATO leaders are going to be in Brussels. I don't know if you're following that, but a big leader summit. So Joe Biden and Canada's Prime Minister and all of the NATO leaders are going to be there, and they may well talk about getting things like jets into Ukraine, and I'm sure the no-fly zone will come up again. What would your early message to them be?
Just help us. Like it's so simple. It's been, personally, me and my girlfriend, we're doing like all we can, 24/7 fundraising, ordering, delivering, because we see the reality. We have a situation of like our brother, my girlfriend's brothers and fathers like want to fight. Like our friends are in civilian defense in Kiev. People are actually, dying around us, like people we know. And it's just like heartbreaking to see how kind of calm and kind of nonchalant, and the world is kind of watching. And it's been a month, and like, I mean, we're here, like we're doing all we can, but I don't think the world is doing all the world can. I mean, the West Germany is still buying like Russian gas and oil. If that stops, like that would just kind of bring the Russian economy would be just so weak that they'll have to react somehow. Maybe like Putin will end the war, but those necessary things are not happening, and we keep hearing this, all kinds of like enabling narratives not to help us, and it's just like heartbreaking.
So how then do you foresee this ending at this point?
The war?
Yes.
Well, if the West somehow closes the sky, we're basically, I think that our troops are doing great. Like the Russians cannot move anymore on the ground. They do have advances and but it seems like we stopped them. But the horror comes from the skies. Like every night they're bombing civilian like buildings, cities. Like there's like, I believe like the count of like dead children is like 120, and it's kind of mounting. And the count of civilian death, I believe, is like 2,000. I might be wrong, because like I'm tired all the time, but it's a lot of innocent people are dying. It's like, when you live here, the bomb can come right here, like at any moment. The sirens come, off, and it can just like fly into your apartment. That's our lives now. So, if the sky was somehow, protected, then it'll be the end of the quick end of the war, because they do have so much more air power, like missiles and jets and stuff. So, yes. We really need that.
Well, it continues to be the debate as we start another week, incredibly, day 26. Taras, thank you very much again for speaking to us. I'm glad to find you safe, and obviously some very important things on your mind that you've raised for us, and thank you for doing so.
Thank you.